The Putnam County Board of County Commissioners Transportation Meeting for 2/22/22 to order. I want to welcome everybody here this afternoon. We will begin the meeting with the invocation given by Commissioner Harvey, and Commissioner Turner will lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Let us bow our heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for a day of today, a day we've never experienced before in our life. Father, we thank you for the vision that this county is going into, that we're appointed here today by you to do the work that you'd have us to do. Let us deliberate, let us meditate, let us just really focus in on how you'd like for us to lead this county. And Father, we thank you for the people in this area, Father, that make this county so special. And we honor Mr. Williams today, Pooh Bear, as he is being remembered for all the hard work he's done and how he moved up and moved out and came back to Putnam County to make a difference. And we thank you for that, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey, and thank you, Commissioner Turner. Item 2, public comment on agenda items. Open it up for public comment on agenda items. Okay, seeing no takers, we will, I just want to make a comment. I appreciate the board this morning agreeing to be signed on the proclamation. I gave them all a copy of that. The city of Crescent City had a special meeting today at 1 to approve this, and then they are going to move to the high school. So actually at 2:22 this afternoon, they're going to have a ceremony and read this proclamation at the high school to the students. So think of this at 2:22. I'm not going to stop the meeting, but that's when that will happen. So thank you so much. Okay, we'll move down to item 2A, which is a Port Authority workshop. So I'll recess the Board of County Commissioner workshop, transportation, and convene the Port Authority workshop. Item A, public comment on Port Authority items. Any individual wishing to make public comment on Port Authority items? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion. We'll move down to the main business, which is item B, the rail spur discussion. Administrator Suggs?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and Board. As you know, this morning we alluded to this. We asked to have this item added to today's agenda. Last Thursday, we received email notification from CSX that the rail spur going into Veritas Steel through the Port Authority had been shut down. So that was a huge concern for us. What it basically meant was no more steel in and out for Veritas at that point. And so Ms. Young pulled the folder out from some time back from when we were negotiating, working through Veritas to get the rail spur fixed and updated. So we were able to make contact with them, Veritas Steel, as well as WT SAP, which is the railroad engineer. And we were able to get the rail spur reopened for 30 days. But we have a deadline that's looming, that we need to get the rail spur not just mended and repaired like we have been, but it needs to be reconstructed. At this point, Ms. Young has been working, getting cost estimates through WT SAP and some other folks. So at this point, we just got that information today, I believe it was. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Young with any further comments regarding the repair itself and the associated cost. Any questions from the commissioners, feel free to go ahead and ask us, and we'll answer the best we can.
Larry, you want to ask your question now, or?
I want to wait till Ms.
Okay.
Julianne.
Commissioner Turner, you want
You've been messing around with this rail spur now ever since I've been here. It looks like the property, and I don't want to bring it up just yet, really, but it looks like the property's going to fly out there, the GP. So far, we haven't found anything ugly that I've been told about, and so I think we need to just go on and bite the bullet and fix the damn thing for real and quit messing around with it. I actually had a conversation yesterday with Sam Sullivan, our ARPA representative or ARPA expert, and asked him, could we spend ARPA money on this rail spur? And he seems to thinking that it would be fine, the best he can tell, unless something's changed from this morning when we talked again. And so I don't know that we should put all the money in from ARPA for sure, but if we could have a placeholder amount of about maybe 300-ish, and to fix this railroad, then use the Port Authority funds to go from there on and fix the rest of it. So anyhow, I don't know what this thing's gonna cost, but I'll bet it's up north of 300 to fix it for real. I just got a feeling, yeah, I understand that you got about a 5 in it, and, you know, but it could be 6, it could be 4. We don't know what it's gonna cost to do.
We know.
Okay, so you did get some numbers?
My mic is real.
You,
I got on this morning during this morning's meeting, to make a permanent fix, you're gonna be just under, and when I mean just under, I mean pennies under, $500,000. So it's gonna be 500,000 to fix it.
well, this is a long-term asset of Putnam County that's very important for the port area. So, we could either, I think we've got about $1 million in Port Authority money, and we've got and we could use some ARPA money if we wanted to. But I think we need to just go on and fix it, and especially now that we have a $500,000 estimate on what it's gonna cost to fix it, or a proposal on what it's gonna cost to fix it. This thing was giving us trouble before I ever got here over 4 years ago, and at some point we need to go on and do it. I don't think Veritas is leaving. The rail spur, I think, also services or can service with just a little more work later on the area down to the riverfront, where we're talking about dredging at some point perhaps. And so I think that all these different areas are served by that rail spur. So that's my opinion. I think we just need to go on and figure out how to pay for it and get it done.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Julianne, for that. Yeah, I'm with you, Commissioner Turner. Honestly, from my understanding, it was a railroad who went from four wheels, is that right?
4 to 6.
And that kind of messed us up. But, it is a heavily used area, it's commerce. And I think right now we just go ahead and move fast and furious on this one and find the money where we can, either ARPA or our Port Authority, or maybe even Economic Development Fund. We can approach them about that. But I think right now we need to go ahead and get it done, and get it done now.
What was the last one, Commissioner?
We
Development
could
Fund?
contact the Economic Development people.
They spend all what we give them, spending it on.
Yeah, I think they
other
still
stuff.
got some, so. Putnam County Development Authority?
Tourist Development
Oh,
has
the
it.
Development Authority.
Development Authority, yes,
Okay,
sir.
not
Yes,
the-
sir.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack?
Do we have any idea who else uses that rail spur and how much traffic it actually generates beyond Veritas? Is there
The
any
rail
other
spur
use-
dead ends into Veritas Steel.
Right, so is there any
so-
other users of that rail spur?
At this time, Veritas is the only end user of the rail spur that comes in. Now, Seminole has used both the barge port area and then connected, as well as GP connects to that rail, and they're also having to do upgrades to theirs. So the rail track there has multiple splits off of it. Ours dead ends into Veritas, and the portion that is owned by Veritas will be repaired by Veritas. But the portion that the county owns is obviously the county's obligation to repair.
And the intent is for that line to become certainly more used and certainly part of the redevelopment of your Port Authority out there, because it will be a big part of that. That's one of the modes of transportation that we've advertised.
Do we know how much material Veritas brings in through the rail spur currently?
It is their primary source of intake of steel. It's significant. we had 10 cars stacked up the day it got locked out, and we got them released, obviously, on a temporary basis. But their estimate over the next 6 weeks was a steady inflow of cars being delivered for the project that they're working on at this time over the next 6 weeks. And so the steel that they bring in is in sheets, obviously. It can't be transported or not easily transported in other avenues. So it is their primary source of getting their raw material in order to continue to fabricate their bridge components.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rawl?
When I met with Veritas, they were willing to put up money. Is that conversation been taken off the table? Are they still willing to put up?
I'm not involved in your conversations.
We haven't had any conversation with Veritas since sometime back in August when the last conversation that we had, and the Port Authority was moved under your direction. We just haven't had any further conversations with it.
The last time I met with and by the way, the Port Authority is not under my direction by a long shot.
Well, let me clarify that. What you were given was the authority to work on this
Right.
project by the board.
They were willing to pony up part of the money. They need this spur. This benefits them. It really doesn't benefit anybody else. And even if we brought something in, we don't have a way to put anything on the spur. They're the only ones that have the means to take things off and on. So, right now, I don't have enough information to say, let's just go throw $500,000 at it. If they're willing to put up half the money or close to half of it, that sure would be good. What do we charge them for the use of the spur? Right, and that's the other part of the problem. I'm not sure what, from a tangible property tax perspective, they pay. This is costing the taxpayers a lot of money. I don't know that we have the money to be able to fund this thing out of the port by itself. If we do bring the ARPA money in, how do we pay for the vacant land that we're looking at purchasing? So I think we got a lot of questions that need to get answered. Are we going to put this out for bids, or are we going to take that one price offering from?
Railroad repair and fabrication is a pretty specialized area. The track supervisor from CSX specifically told me to use this company. It's my recommendation.
SAP's been working on it forever.
They have?
I've talked to Judson several times about it.
I
But
think it's certainly a very solid single source situation. But it would be my recommendation not to bid it out, but to allow WJ SAP to complete the repairs based on CSX's direction.
And what, are we widening the tracks?
No, you're gonna be,
Can you shoot me what you got there?
I can. They're gonna be demoing 1675 TF of existing rail track, excavate and grade the road bed, and then to construct that much new track with a 115-pound rail section. Dual-treated hardwood cross tiles, double shoulder plate ties, a new drive on the anchors. So what CSX cited to us in the letter that we received was that we had two different problems. The curvature of the track is not set up for the weight of those cars, and the spiking pattern is not in compliance with their specifications of a track that's going to be designed that way. The spiking pattern of our current track doesn't allow us to update it to CSX's required specifications. So our current track cannot meet CSX specifications. So they locked our track out. In order to bring it up, we're gonna have to demo everything that's in that sharp curvature and rebuild it to their specifications, which is.
What do we do at Comfort Road? Are we responsible for that, or is that us or them where it crosses the road?
Well, it's ours until you hit Veritas's gate. However, that portion of Comfort Road is not necessarily in the curvature. So there's a design, or there's a
I'm not really
designated
saying-
curvature.
That's are you saying that they're gonna not replace everything all the way to Veritas? 1,600 feet's a third of a mile, almost.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're going all the way.
What they sent me was to address what the CSX engineer sent them.
Did they have a drawing to fix the, any chance?
They do not.
I mean, we will certainly continue the conversation with WTSAP to get more information that's needed. The real issue here is the timeline in which we have to get this completed. We were able to talk them into allowing us to open the track up for an additional 30 days until we could get this repair replacement done. So, that's why we brought it to you today, to get some direction from the Board of County Commissioners on moving forward with this. And now we have a cost estimate associated with it, with a plan of reconstruction. And so our biggest thing is we don't want to take another 2-3 weeks without getting some direction so we can move forward on this and run out of our time limit in which we need to get with CSX, because they've already shut our track down once. And so the biggest concern is making sure that we're able to continue moving forward.
I'd like to see if we can get, I'd like to see what we're getting for the money, number one, but also see if we can get that section, because that is a really bad crossing. And if weight's a concern, that's the same track we're talking about. I would imagine they've got that built in. But where it makes that curve in a Veritas, are we paying for that, or is Veritas paying for that?
At Veritas's gate and beyond, it's Veritas's.
See, I don't know why they wouldn't pay for that last curve, to be honest with you. It doesn't benefit anybody else but them. So I think we need to be negotiating with them for sure to shoulder some of this.
Based on the previous conversation back in August, I believe what Veritas's offer was to potentially purchase some of the materials at their cost, because they get it at a much lesser rate on behalf of Putnam County. But I don't think there was any discussion of them paying for the project itself. It was, they were going to help us eliminate some of the costs based on the materials themselves.
Well, I think we need to talk to them, because that last little bit is only benefits them, doesn't benefit the public at all. But I'd like to see what it is we're getting. I mean, did SAP just send us a paragraph describing the work, and I wouldn't think it'd be smart for us to turn that loose that quick and easy.
It's at the direction of the board. SAP was sent the CSX drawings and specifications required, and SAP sent back the scope of work in order to make the repairs. Based on the volatility in steel prices, the scope of work is only good for 5 days, and CSX has agreed to the plan. It wasn't exactly what CSX wanted, but they have agreed to the plan. And so at this point, CSX is waiting on direction as to what Putnam County's action is going to be, as to determine what the future sustainability of keeping that track open will be.
Okay, we move on. Mr. Rawls, you done for now?
It feels like we've got a gun to our head, and we're having to deal with another crisis where we have no time to make a decision, but spend a lot of money that we don't have. So, and you're saying that if I understand the price being fixed for 5 days, that's typical in this economy, but I'd like to see what it is we're actually getting and paying for. I mean, all I've seen is that we had a modification to the agenda so far. We've had nothing.
Well, it came in this morning at 10-something, so yes, I realize that's.
Can I get a copy of that?
Of course.
You can email it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we all have
Okay.
that, please?
Commissioner Turner?
Absolutely. But it's-
My next comment was basically along the lines of where he is. I'm pretty sure that Veritas agreed to do some kind of a cost sharing on it. I don't know how much or whatever, but regardless, the rail spur is our asset. It does only help Veritas at this time, but that doesn't mean it won't help somebody else in the future. It is our asset. We've known this day was coming. We've known it for over 2 years now, because it's been shut down previously, and they've been putting bubble gum and Band-Aids on it, trying to get it open just enough to where they could keep that running in there. So I don't know that it's an option. And I think the last thing we want to do is run Veritas Steel out of Putnam County when they're the second or third largest private employer in the county, I believe, or close to it. So,
That crossing is included.
excuse me, did I interrupt you?
No, I was just letting her know that the crossing is included.
Okay, so,
Crossing is
It
included?
is included. Yep.
so
Line 5.
I think that we ought to reach out to Veritas, like Commissioner Rawls suggested, and ask them, do they have any interest in it or whatever. But I still think that we need to go on and get it fixed. I don't know that we can get it done within their 30-day time period, though. I just don't see how we can. You know, if, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
It's my understanding that the CSX engineer has agreed that if we agree to some minor temporary repairs and the long-term plan within the 5 days, that he will work to ensure the safety of the rail cars coming in can continue until such time as the permanent repair can be made. And so what's been agreed upon by CSX and theoretically us, as well as our vendor, is simply, if we agree, nobody's gonna shut a track down over timing of the repairs.
So basically, it can be used as it is,
Correct.
but they're saying they're not gonna use it if we don't agree to do it.
No, it can't be used as is unless they have a 4-axle locomotive in the area. And that's what they've been operating for the last 3 or 4 days. We've been pulling a 4-axle locomotive from a nearby area and making those deliveries so that Veritas is open. That's been since Thursday morning. What can happen is they can go in and make some repairs, the Band-Aid repairs, again, that we've been making to keep that track safe for limited operations while the long-term repair is being made.
Okay.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that this is economic development for our county. I'll just say that. One of our largest employers, and we should take care of that, not only for our employer, but for our future port. I do think Mr. Sapp is the guy, no doubt. It seems like he has the relationship with CSX that can keep that line open. I do have a question, though, is what does CSX plan really want versus what we can do now? And I guess I'm all for going ahead today, don't get me wrong. But if we're going to have to revisit this 2 to 3 years because CSX wanted something better, then I think we should look at that better too at this point and make that decision. But I'm ready to go forward. And how long is the repairs going to take? I guess Veritas will stock up and be ready for that to be shut down for some time, right?
We will work with them as we did discuss that a couple years ago, in that we can make sure all of their steel coming in is already in for the fabrications that they need during the period. And once we get all the materials, it's a very short time of actual repairs. So it's only a couple of weeks that the track would be down once all the materials arrive.
Okay, good. All right, I'm all for it, and I do think you need to talk to Veritas. If you want, I'll go with you, I'd be glad to, but, you know, I think our chairman could really make that happen, so.
Commissioner Adams?
Do we know how many people Veritas employs?
I don't know their latest numbers. I know that they have been continuously in our top 15 taxpayers of the year for the last several years. Once they were in the top 10, but they got kind of pulled back down, but they're in the top.
I'd love to understand how many employees they have. If we can get that information from maybe our economic development group or somebody, that'd be great.
Mr. Chairman, according to the website for Veritas Steel, they average anywhere between 200 and 500 employees at any given time, depending on the workload.
Here in Putnam,
Number of
or
shifts.
the company? The company has like 3 other locations.
I will also tell you that they're looking to put a third shift on once we get the ability to bring more steel in.
I think they only have like 45 employees out there or something, but, okay. I'd like to know the numbers for Putnam, if that's possible. So I'm gonna disclose, I'm friends with Judson Sapp, so I want that out there. It's not gonna affect the way that I vote. I really enjoy his father as well, very nice man. Again, won't affect the way I vote. So this goes back to, for, I guess about 9 months ago, for the first 3 months, I really didn't talk about, because I was trying to learn something about what our role is in the Port Authority and what we can decide and what we can't decide. This goes back to all my prior comments where I feel we really need to sit down and figure out what the purpose of the Port Authority is beyond, what our goals are for the Port Authority beyond just the stated purpose in its formation documentation from 60 years ago or whatever it was. And part of that, I think, is still involves having a port manager, and this is exactly the type of things that a port manager could be doing more than just managing the physical water port. It could be managing, finding alternative people to utilize this spur. I mean, if we're gonna go spend 500 grand and we're not actively trying to find other uses for it today, I think we're doing a disservice to the people of Putnam County. I absolutely think Veritas, and I wasn't part of the commission, I don't think, when they did talk about sharing the costs, but I believe I watched a meeting where someone from Veritas stood out there and said basically that they need it, so they would be more than willing to participate. I don't remember if that was, like they're saying, of steel sharing, or if it was actually a 50-50 cost sharing. I think we definitely need to pursue that. I would love to see us pursue that before we vote on it. I think that's due diligence. I just have concerns. I just can't. How much money do we have in the Port Authority? And I don't really see funding it out of anywhere but the Port Authority, in this commissioner's opinion.
Roughly in reserves, you have about $1 million.
So, and I guess I'll add to that, or the Economic Development Authority, either one of those, or even, I think, Larry, you mentioned that other development group. But I think that's where this has to come from, monies that are specific to that type of endeavor. I guess that's all I'll say for now, but I can't get behind this today.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
One of my biggest concerns, sitting here reading the payment terms of the contractor, he wants 50% down before he ever hits the
You
job.
just stole my thunder.
I got a problem with that one. If we got to fire SAP and find somebody else, he can't ask us for 50% down. He's in this business. That's ridiculous. Now, I'm on board with using SAP, but I'm not aboard giving him half the money before he ever even shows up. That's not how you do business in the construction industry. You know, I'll even say that we give him the money when he gets on the job and gets started. You know, that's pushing it, but at least he's there, showed up. But you sign the contracts and send a check for 50%? No, I'm not going there. I don't care if it is a trusted guy like SAP. I'm not going there. That's just not how you do business. So if we can't negotiate a different payment term than this, I'm not on board either. They just lost me. You're gonna have to reach out to SAP and say, look, we'll pay you half your money, but you need to at least show up with the materials first or something. You can't just sign the contract, mail me a check, and I'll get around to it when I feel like it. No, I'm not doing that one. And there's some things in here that it says that they're not responsible for any permitting needed for earthwork. Is there any earthwork that's gonna require permitting? Does anybody know that, or is this like a catch-all phrase they put on every estimate just in case there's some there they don't know about? Or, you know, I guess we need to ask some of those questions, especially for a $500,000 taxpayer's money.
And we will. We just, like I said, we just got this morning during the meeting, so we hadn't had a chance to read it and digest it and go through it. All those things will absolutely be addressed. What we're looking here for today is just to bring this to the board's attention that we got this issue. We did get a cost estimate to try to do the repair so we can continue moving in the process, but we have in no way negotiated any type of terms or any type of payment structure at this point.
Well, this commissioner thinks before I can get on board with it, they're gonna have to give us more favorable payment terms than that. It's not like we're not good for the money or something. That goes against everything that I've ever learned in the contracting business my life. You don't pay somebody up front when they sign a contract, not unless you expect to be hurt.
Exactly.
I don't, if we can get more favorable payment terms and some of these other questions can be answered, I'll get on board with you today. Of course, I'm just one commissioner, but I'll get on board with you today to try to move this forward. You know, and I realize we got a gun to our head right now from CSX, but they've been cocking the trigger for 3 years. It ain't like we didn't hear it coming or didn't know it was coming. So we've just put it off until the point that we can't anymore, and I think that point has arrived, evidently. Probably should have done it previous to now, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know how that goes. So I'll get on board with you today if you can get favorable payment terms and we can decide where to pay for it. I'd just soon pay for some of it out of ARPA. The ARPA money, that's what it's for, is infrastructure type projects. This is infrastructure, and it's clearly economic development infrastructure, so, you know, maybe we cost share with the port. I don't know if in order to get any money from the development authority, we've got to call a development authority meeting, and that's gonna take a few weeks to get that done, and ask, Mr. Mr. Reynolds, if he, you know, cause he's chairman of the development authority, if he wants to call a meeting or not. And, I don't know how much money the development authority has, I just don't know at the moment, but, you know, it may be that we could try to get some of that and try to use some of the port money, but, you know, we've already, I don't know if we're gonna pay for it out of the port or out of general funds, but we've got $1 million bill coming at us here pretty quick for the land that we've already agreed to purchase if all the environmentals turn out to be satisfactory. So, you know, we're gonna have to pay for that also out of something. So anyhow, I think we need to figure out how to pay this and try to do something with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls?
So just using Google Earth, I know this is not precise, but I come up with less than 1,600 linear feet going into their property, and I'm only at right around 1,400 not going into Veritas's property, but it really, we don't own the land adjacent to the rail spur. And that used to be, I've seen that thing used for several things over the past 30 years. And one of the things that they've excluded in their clarifications is any, I didn't say mitigation, any hazardous materials for testing, so I assume they're talking about a phase 2 at that point, but if there was anything discovered from sins of the other owners, that would be our responsibility. No dewatering. I don't know if dewatering is going to come into play on this anyways. And then the MOT, that's going to be kind of tricky, because when you shut that crossing down, if CSX is coupling cars and they're stretched out across the south entrance, folks that are leaving Crystal Cove area have nowhere to go when they shut that thing down. So, but they said they're not, they include MOT for the crossing, but who's going to handle everything else when we're dealing with the public on that?
I don't believe they'll shut down the crossing at the south of.
No, what I'm saying is if you can't, the other day I sat there for 25 minutes waiting for the cars to clear.
Right.
I thought about going around to the north entrance. I could have. If you shut down that crossing, you only have one entrance. You don't have that option. So that's the part that's going to give us heartburn as commissioners is that, you know, I don't know if they can do this in a day or if it's going to take several days to remove the tracks, excavate like they're talking about, because now they're coming in with, it says they're using the heavier rail. They're excavating and grading the roadbed and replacing all the ballast for that entire run. So that's not going to be done in a day, I wouldn't think. It's probably going to be a 2 or 3 day process for that little stretch. But at the end of the day, this rail spur does not service our public. It does not service anybody but Veritas. It only goes from the main line around property that we don't own, and it goes right in their gate. And there's no opportunity for us to be able to utilize that rail spur that I can tell, unless we pull a spur off the spur. Mm-hmm. And that's not being discussed. What we're discussing is only going to benefit Veritas.
Sure. And the liability of the repairs falls on the owner of the track, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why we have ours and they have theirs.
But the difference between ours and theirs is probably 100 feet. I wonder if SAP's, again, I would like to see the drawings because it almost looks like SAP has included theirs as part of ours, going beyond the fence, because they're almost 1,700 feet. And Google Earth is pretty accurate, but unless they're not starting at the spur itself. I went from where the spur starts all around the arc, and it's less than 500 meters. It's 460 meters. So, but again, doesn't benefit anybody but one business. And I mean, I'd love the county to help me with my business, throw me $500,000, but that's not gonna happen. And every other business owner, and you got some fairly large business owners in Putnam County that, I guarantee you, if you check in with St. John Shipbuilders, they have more heads showing up to work any given day of the week than Veritas does. They don't have 250 people here right now.
Commissioner Adamsack?
That's kind of, I think we need a drawing too to see what we're paying for. I think we need to have the exact specs, where our property starts, where it ends. And, yeah, this isn't following, and I get it, it's emergency, I guess, but it doesn't follow any of the protocols we followed for anything else we've ever done. And I get it, this is different, because someone shut them down that's not us. And, without that, I don't think because I don't know if we own 1,675 feet. I didn't look at Google Earth or nothing, but, that was gonna be my next question, but I guess he answered. But just to clarify, even the land we're buying doesn't combine to the rail spur, correct? If we purchase land at GP, so that's still like a lot or two over, isn't it? Or at least,
a portion of that lot that passes our rail spur that you could have, another spur on. So yes, you
but
could
we'd have to
tie in
build something to get over there, correct?
just out, well, you have to build the, tail.
Okay.
I'm no track person, but you have to build something to,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not a track person either. And as far as competitors for SAP, I mean, the thing about railroads is it's national. So, I mean, there are people in Alabama, there are people in South Florida, and they compete with those people as far north as Pennsylvania all the time for work in Florida as well as other states. So, I think there's one in Georgia as well. So I think there's opportunity for bids. It just may not look as local as what we're used to, I guess. Thank you.
I certainly think there's an opportunity for bids, and we can do whatever the board directs, and we will notify Veritas of whatever that is. Obviously, a bid would take 28 days just to put the bid on the street. We only have, well, now less than 30 days of our track being open, before it shuts down. So however we proceed it, I just need direction from the board.
Can we, I mean, if we're pursuing finding someone to do the work, could we maybe talk to CSX and see if that meets the requirements?
We
'Cause-
have, their agreement was only after they see authorization of the work to be done. So we talked to CSX immediately, and we talked to CSX the next day, and we talked to CSX the next day. And so what's happened is our area has a new track supervisor. Our old track supervisor allowed these Band-Aid repairs to continue to operate. New track supervisor comes in, he's not. I'm told this is what they're doing regionally. They're moving through the state and they're shutting everybody down that's not in compliance. They had an issue in Tampa where a 6-axle locomotive derailed. It caused a lot of heartburn. Those things are apparently pretty expensive and they're no longer willing to gamble with. So they have said, we are not
Yeah.
negotiating anymore.
So having an uncle who worked on derailments, they're not as uncommon as people think they are, first of all, especially in loading and unloading yards. That's what he did every day of his life. So there's a derailment somewhere in this country almost every day. Not at speed, but there's derailments every day, whether you're talking about in some big company's lot where they're in there or somewhere, but it happens every day because there's people that get sent out from all over this country to take care of that type of situation. So I get it. I mean, I understand CSX's point. I just, maybe we need to ask to talk to the guy above the local supervisor.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Well, first off, it is an emergency, but we need to keep in mind it's an emergency that we created. This has been going on for years, and we stuck our head in the sand and said we're not gonna fund it, and it was only for Veritas, and, I mean, every reason that are valid reasons that we've talked about here today, we've used for the last several years, and it's time to either pony up or shut up. I wouldn't mind reaching out to Veritas and ask them would they participate, but if I was them, I'd tell you, no, fix your rail spur. You know, we came in here because we fix ours and you fix yours. That's what the agreement's pretty much always been that I'm aware of. Another thing that I wanna make sure of is that we need to make sure that none of this project is on Veritas Steel's land. None, not a foot. Because we're not allowed to work on private property by statute. So we need to make sure that the concerns raised today by commissioners concerning, are we working on Veritas's property, we need to make sure that that concern is unfounded. I mean, not a foot. So if they take care of theirs, then I'm kind of willing to take care of ours. If they want to participate because they get the biggest good from it, then I understand. But I think it's always been kind of the deal is that it's our railroad spur. We're supposed to keep it going, and they have in the past done some work on it to keep going because we basically refused to do it. But I think it's at the point now to where they can't put 10 or 12,000 in it or 15 like they have been able to in the past. Obviously, it's going to be $500,000. So, like I said, I'm probably willing to move forward today if the commission wants to, but it's going to have to have some better, more favorable payment terms than what these are, and that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls?
I don't think that we're in a position to move forward yet. Not today. We just don't have the information that we would really need to make an informed decision. But I keep stirring this thing. It only benefits Veritas. I think that they should pony up half the money. I think that would be the citizens of Putnam County putting up half, them putting up half. It benefits their business. Again, they're not the only business in Putnam County that could use help, but they are the only one that touches this rail spur. In looking at it, I don't see any opportunity for anybody to unload anything off of this rail spur except Veritas, unless there's significant changes made to straighten that thing out and take it into our port like it used to go a long time ago. Because there is evidence of tracks over there, but right now it only services one piece of real estate, and that's not ours. It belongs to Veritas.
Commissioner Harvey?
Yeah, I don't have a problem moving forward today. My only concern is I'd like to know what CSX total plan would look like and where we're at with that versus what the not the Band-Aid fix, the few-year fix. But I think if we can fix it once right the first time, we should be doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, let me clarify that, I didn't answer that question for you. CSX's original request was the track would needed to be double plated. And when WJ Sapp and the not local, but the higher management of CSX and I got together, what was found is their original request for those double-plated tracks can't be done in Putnam County due to the space limitations. So not only is our track on a curve, but our track is also, the right-of-way that we own, right-of-way being used loosely there, is very, very narrow. Because one of the first alternatives we looked at with someone in corporate CSX was to change the trajectory of the track. We simply don't have enough space to do that. We also don't have enough space to do the double-plated rail. So what they came up with was, it won't be of that standard, but it will meet the safety standard on a long-term basis for CSX.
Okay.
The only alternative, which is in that email, to enhance it any further would be for an additional $65,000, I believe. They could basically weld the track pieces together, which would make it more of a unified, continuous piece of track, which may give you a stronger ultimate outcome, a longer useful life, if you will. There will always be minor repairs to the rail track, but this solution brought to you today is a permanent long-term solution, the best that we can reach given the trajectory, the curvature, and the space limitations that we're working within.
Thank you for explaining that. I mean, I'm good. I don't want to spend it, but it's something that I agree with Commissioner Turner. We knew it was coming, and it's here now. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I know that time is of the essence here, by all means. Like I said, the last thing I want to do is shut down an employer when his business plan has been to use this property for years. And so part of that business plan was it'd be no different to me than if this was a road going into his business and the road caved in and it shut their business down. We would go fix their road and we wouldn't bat an eye. So because of this situation, we're calling it a railroad spur, and yes, they're the only one that use it, but if it was a road and the only access to their business and that road broke down, we'd be in there working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get that road fixed and get them back in there. Because the biggest portion of their material is coming in by rail car and has to come in by rail car. To me, I really don't see where they have an option of us just saying, well, let the railroad spur go away and then just shut Veritas down. You know, especially when their business has been, for years, has been relying on that railroad spur to be used. So to me, it's really not an option. Do we fix it or not? I think we should fix it. The payment terms bother me tremendously, but I think that if you call and tell them that they would do something about that. I would be surprised if they didn't. So I think it's the biggest thing is where the best place to fund this is. I think that Commissioner Harvey's idea of going to the Development Authority is a valid idea. I just don't think we have time to get it done. So I would like to propose that maybe we take $300,000 in ARPA money and put towards it, and put another $200,000 or the rest of it out of the Development Authority at this time. And
The Port Authority.
yeah, the Port, excuse me, the Port Authority at this time. I was thinking the other, but my mind and my mouth wasn't together. So anyhow, that's what I think we should do, is take $300 out of ARPA money and the additional monies necessary out of the Port Authority funds. That's a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We've got a motion on the floor to move this thing forward with some questions answered, and fund 300 out of ARPA and 200 out of Port. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, for discussion. All right, we'll start discussion with Commissioner Adamsack.
So I think they do have alternatives. I don't know about every size piece of steel they bring in there, but the port is an alternative. They can bring it in through water. The gentleman from when we had the meeting where they came and spoke about why they would use it after it's dredged, said that they can bring steel in and out of the port the way it is today. He said that from this dais, literally, when was it, March of last year, almost about around a year ago at its current depth. The only thing he couldn't do was the bridge pieces, when they're complete, for rail bridges in other areas. So they could bring steel into the port via water. There's also trucks haul steel all over this country every day that we exist and breathe. You don't see a lot of steel trucks in Putnam County. I think that's a lot of it because the main steel company brings it in via rail. I get that. I don't consider this an emergency because there is alternatives. I don't think, I would need someone from Veritas to be here to tell me that they'd have to shut down tomorrow if they couldn't get the stuff in through rail, that there's no other alternative. I need to know how many employees they have here locally. I need to know what the net benefit is going forward if we're gonna spend this money to the county beyond just Veritas Steel. Is there an option, why do we own the rail spur? Is there an option that maybe we fix the rail spur and give it to Veritas so that they maintain it for perpetuity going forward? Why do we want it? Why do we want a liability? I don't want a liability.
Good point.
So maybe we talk to them about that. Hey, we'll fix it this one time the right way. We'll finish it to their specs, the CS6 specs. It becomes yours. The only option we want is if we ever want to bring in a spur off of it into the port and see if they're agreeable to that, and they take over maintenance of it. I think these are discussions we need to have before I can say yes to this. And I think there's something that we could do in an emergency meeting Thursday or Friday this week. I think these discussions could be had in the next few days. I don't know if they could be legally drawn up and agreed to, but I think we could at least have some outline. That's just where I'm at. Thank you.
Mr. Rawls?
You took it right where I was going. I think we should slow things down long enough to have a meeting with Veritas. Also, I'd like to get the information from CSX, if you can shoot me that gentleman's contact information. And maybe have them here as well, see if we can noodle through a solution that won't put us in such a hurry to get to it, and be able to negotiate with Veritas to, I don't know, I'm in favor of turning it over to them. I think that they should have been paying us all along for use of the spur. We wouldn't be having this conversation, obviously. You know, that this, over the past 20 years, if we'd been collecting a little bit here and there, you know, replacing it every now and then, it would be covered. So I think we need to get to a point where if and when we make the improvements to this thing, the money is recaptured so future repairs are not the burden of the taxpayers. And I agree. I think we should have a meeting Thursday, Friday, whenever tomorrow, whenever we get it set up.
Of this week?
I'm yeah. Or as soon as possible. If this week isn't convenient, maybe Monday or Tuesday, but just whatever is, they're right there.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
These are valid points that they're making. I mean, a lot of times I don't agree with what the 3-2 usually is. Like today, obviously, it would be, well, I don't know what Commissioner Pickens is gonna vote for, but if it went, it'd probably be 3-2 if it went. So, some of the points here are very valid that they're making. They really are. And I realize it's an emergency that we probably created by not taking care of it. How much is it gonna upset all the players if we put this thing off till like Tuesday of next week at 9 o'clock in the morning and just have everybody come in, the players like Veritas and us, and let's talk to them, and basically let's find out, do they have another option? Because what Commissioner Adams' said is not far off here. I mean, if they've got other options, but this saves them a little bit of money to bring it in on rail, then, but they can bring it in by water, or they can bring it in by truck, but it's more expensive, then maybe they've been using our rail spur long enough. And if it's a big enough savings for them to be able to bring their steel in at a cost savings that makes them more competitive, and we don't need that railroad spur for anybody but Veritas, maybe that's also a valid option, that we just give the damn thing to Veritas. Say, there you go, you can have it, fix it if you want to. At that point, it may be that Veritas decides that they can bring it in cheaper on, by water or by truck or whatever. So, you know, some of these questions that have been raised here today are very valid, and there's nobody on this commission that hates dragging around with things more than I do. I guarantee you, I want to do things day before yesterday instead of next week, but this may be one of them times that we might want to put it off till Tuesday and try to get some of these questions answered. So, you know, I think I'm gonna withdraw my motion unless my second won't withdraw, which
I was gonna withdraw my second before you were gonna withdraw your motion.
Okay, well, would you withdraw your second?
I did.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I would like to request that that's what we do, that we try to reach back out and get payment terms favorable, that we talk to them, that we see if we have any better options, that we talk to Veritas Steel, and like I said, unless somebody can come up with a very valid reason why we own the thing at all, maybe we just say, okay, you can have it. We'll just give the spur to Veritas. I assume we could do that. I don't know. We'd have to abandon the spur first, probably, legally. But if we abandoned the spur and then sold it to them for $1, I guess we could do that. I'm not sure. We'd have to talk to somebody that's got more letters after their name than I do, like Captain Commando over there. So, so
He was a colonel. He was a colonel.
yeah, he got demoted.
All right. Okay, so we have the motion withdrawn and the second.
Yeah.
Since we're going to do this, and I think it's the proper thing to do we have time to get with Matt Reynolds to call a meeting of the Development Authority on that Monday? Or the meeting before, have it on Tuesday before this meeting? To see if there's any money in the Development Authority that could be used for this?
Julie, do you know if there's any money in the Development Authority? I know you don't really run those books, so. You know, but on top of this, we got that sale that's coming at the, out at the barge port, that's another 600. I mean, that's out at the industrial park, that's barge port money, right? And so that's another 600 grand coming, that'll put us at 1.6. So we got the money to fix this if that sale goes through, and all indications so far is that it's probably going to, and so, that puts us at 1.6, and the government, I hate saying this because it goes against my grain, but the government shouldn't be a savings account. We just shouldn't take money and just sit on it forever with no benefit to the public. We need to have a proper reserve, but then use the money to the benefit of the public. So I wouldn't mind if the chairman would call a meeting for Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. That might give everybody the time to get these answers. We can find the money to pay for this if that's the way we decide we want to go. So it'd be up to you if you want to
Okay.
get the
Is that
development authority.
Is that agreeable with the board? We call a meeting at 9 o'clock on that Tuesday?
That's just, let you know, that is the first day of Women's History Month.
First day of what?
Women's History Month? It
And
just,
that has
that's the
what?
only thing on my calendar, I have no idea, but.
That's what to say, and that has what to do with this?
And again, I'm available before that if we can make something happen. I wouldn't mind or be offended if you said, hey, we need to meet Thursday, if we can make that happen sooner. Time is of the essence, obviously. You know, they've asked for 5 days. What was the date certain?
Just call it when you need to.
I received it this morning, so I'll have to ask for a revised proposal for, if we extend it.
You know, I don't know that it would be beneficial to have the contractor in the room at the time, but, you know, surely somebody from Veritas would be able to make a meeting before Tuesday of next week. But that, I'm available. I'll make myself available whenever.
Why don't you reach out to Veritas and all the players that we talked about and see when they can meet, and then get back with me.
Could we tentatively set it for Tuesday at 9, and
okay.
then if it needs to
fine.
change, we can
Right.
change it, that way we have it blocked out?
That's fine. Commissioner Adamsack?
The only reason I think we may want to have the contractor either here or on the line, is if it is determined that only 1,400 feet of it is ours and 200 is Veritas's. I think we need to delineate the amount of the contract, which part applies to the county section, which part applies to Veritas's, so to speak. Just
I would certainly hope that we find that out before Tuesday morning. That
Me
we
as well,
make
but if-
sure that that is only on our land, and that is, if it's, some of it goes up in there, I hope that's cut out before we ever get there.
Right.
And so, and that number's already there, and so the contractor's probably only just pricing whatever they've asked him to price, and so, you know, we just need to make sure none of us is on Veritas's land, that they're willing to do favorable terms. If any of it's for Veritas's tract, then we need to do the other, and somebody needs to reach out to Veritas and find out what their options are, you know, and what have you, and they probably would like to be here on Tuesday, because what I'm hearing today, I'm not far from saying, Merry Christmas, you got yourself a rail spur, you fix it. And I'm not far from that, so, unless somebody can show me why we need to own it. Good points. So,
Okay, so you're tentatively scheduled for Tuesday?
Yep.
Tuesday at
we're
9.
good.
Okay. All right, any further discussion about the rail spur? Okay, general discussion on Port Authority items. Any commissioners? Okay, I'll adjourn the Port Authority meeting.
One question, Port Authority. Does anybody know where we are on getting the recirculatory system at the splash pad done? Is that that's port stuff, isn't it?
It's not gonna be, we're not recirculating, I don't think.
Yep, we decided not to do research, we decided to do the well. But we are still working with local vendors and permitting and the water management and what we would have to have for each scenario. So we're working through that process.
Do we think we're gonna have that up and running by warm weather, by
The
April,
splash
May?
pad's already running.
The what?
The splash pad's already running, so it's operational. Just as soon as we can get some answers back from the water management as to what would trigger a bigger permit and what we need to stay within, then it's a quote scenario and then work to be done immediately. So it would be a changeover that would be relatively simple.
Yeah, I guess I missed the moving from the circulatory system.
There was a requirement for a urinal, and there's not enough room in the bathroom, short of making the building bigger, so,
Well, I don't disagree that all that's true, I'm just saying, I guess I missed that
Yeah.
decision somewhere along the line, so. Last I heard, we were gonna do the other, so, all right, cool.
make it one more thing before you close out. Is there any interest in having a meeting regarding, what Commissioner Adams was alluding to, moving forward with some sort of plan of action for the total port, the port properties and all that, or where are we at with that?
March, right?
This commissioner would like to see what's gonna happen with the dredging, because it makes all the difference in the world. If basically we're gonna get somebody to pay for dredging and they end up dredging, it's gonna change the whole direction of what goes on out there. At that point, you would definitely need a port manager. Right now, I don't know what a port manager would do, with the exception of waiting on the dredging to see what happens for the direction of the port. So, you know, I think that time's coming, and hopefully it's not too far off. I just think it's a little bit early. That's just my
Right,
opinion.
there is interest in that, no question, and is that one of the items on the March agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I believe one of the items was some discussion about Port Authority, the pros and cons of owning property and things of that nature. That's one of the things that the staff was asked to bring back to a workshop. So, you know, depending on how the conversation goes between now and the end of the week with scheduling of this coming up Tuesday's meeting, I mean, this may end up being, instead of a third Tuesday workshop, maybe a first Tuesday workshop, if that's something you might want to think about doing. But either that, or we can certainly move this to a future agenda.
Okay, and we've got a number of agenda items on the workshop for the first Tuesday, so we're gonna discuss that at the end of this meeting about prioritizing those and maybe moving some of those to a later date.
Yes, sir. Do you want to wait till then, or you want me to make the announcement now as to why, or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll just do it now, we'll get it over
Okay.
with.
One of the issues is, Ms. Young and myself, we failed to realize during the earlier conversation, we didn't schedule a joint city-county meeting because of the scheduling conflicts that we had. And the third Tuesday of that March, Ms. Young won't be available, and the following Tuesday, I won't be available. And so, you know, if you want to try to maybe move some of this around, then we can probably get it on the March 8th workshop, but I don't think we can cover all 6 of these items or 5 of these items in that afternoon. It looks like they might be pretty hefty items. So depending on what happens this coming Tuesday, if we want to try to put some items on there, we can do that. But the March 15th, and some of your administrative staff
What are
won't
the
be
items
available.
that you have, Terry? I don't have that
We have
list.
Port Authority, we have the Port Authority, the pros and cons, which we just talked about. Biosolids, that came out this morning, that asked us to put it on a workshop. And that should either a discussion on temporary banning moratorium or whatever. Then we have the background screening policy, which I don't think needs to really come back. It's just a matter of language change that Ms. Caron can bring back to the board at a regular scheduled meeting. And then we have biweekly payroll, which we were asked to bring back, and of course, ARPA, and then Commissioner Turner's request for building department.
Well,
Conversation.
you might want to check with Mr. Reynolds after talking with him today, as late as today. They're thinking that may not be switched over until September. And that's because of some type of software that they feel like it would be a lot easier to do in September than it would be now. Now, it's just something that he said was a possibility. And so they're still coming up with him. So I don't know that they'd be ready by the third Tuesday workshop. And looks to me like unless, I hate
That'd be their first Tuesday workshop.
first Tuesday.
Yeah, that'd be our regular workshop of what we're talking about
You're
now
talking about
with
the second
these items.
Tuesday.
Yes, yeah, we were gonna have a third Tuesday, but Julianne's gonna be gone. The fourth Tuesday, Minister Suggs will be here for our meeting, but not the afternoon meeting, so we're talking about trying to put everything in on the second Tuesday,
I guess-
regular workshop,
So
so,
we've got a railroad meeting on the first Tuesday.
excuse me, it'd be the second Tuesday,
Right.
So the second Tuesday is regular
Right.
workshops, what you're talking about, all those
all
items.
those.
Well, the one that I was doing was I thought was gonna go on to the 15th workshop, but that's the day that you don't wanna have a workshop, is that what you're saying?
Well, all the staff won't be available, depending on, some of the items that was on here, we would need all staff available.
Well, the ones that we need all the staff available, I guess the chairman needs to try to select which ones those are. And the ones that have anything, that's the day that Miss Young's gonna be gone. If that's the case, it may be anything to do with money and numbers,
That's about everything, isn't it?
yeah, anymore it is.
Well-
There'll probably be multiple staff out, that's spring break, so
Oh,
all of
that's
us
Well,
will
true.
what if we
have
go to make
children.
decision is if we
Thank
can, unless you want to add some of them to the, we'll see if we're going to have the first Tuesday. But say, let's go ahead and do the second Tuesday. Are we in agreement that we can move the Port Authority discussion, that we'll move that to a later date? And maybe find out more information. How long do you think it'll take to see if we are going to get dredged out there? Is that months down the road, or?
Oh, yes, the dredge project part of the port is in the feasibility study, that's 18 months out.
Okay, so we could have initial discussions on the direction of the port in May, and that wouldn't be a problem.
No, I mean,
Or
can I speak? I
April.
mean, I'm the one that asked to get that put on there, and it wasn't about a port manager at the time. It was about talking about the properties that we have, managing parks under the port, all that. The port manager is something I've talked about, but that wasn't the purpose of that meeting. Just to be clear, that's not what we were talking about for
Well, let's
why that
move-
was
Let's
requested
move
for a
that
workshop.
discussion to April, so that will take that one off of there. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, the next one down was,
Biosolids,
I think we need to have that one. So let's keep that one on there.
okay.
What's the next one?
I'm going to pull this one myself, it's the background policy, we don't need to
Okay.
bring that back to workshop.
All right, the next one.
Biweekly payroll, and according to,
Sounds like
Commissioner
that. Can
Turnley.
somebody reach out to
Somebody
Matt?
reach out to Matt and find
Okay.
out.
I don't know.
It sounds to me like, talking to him today, we could put that off a month and it wouldn't be a big deal.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to Matt, so that's probably gonna be pulled. So what else?
Building department discussion,
Well, that one could be done later on, and Julie doesn't have to be here for that one, so it could be done on the 15th, if we're still having that.
Well, we're trying not to have one on the 15th if we can get all these there, so let's keep that one on there.
Well,
okay, for the second Tuesday?
Second Tuesday.
Okay, gotcha. And then the last one was the ARPA discussion.
You wanna do the ARPA, if we call the first Tuesday meeting, do the ARPA after that? Commissioner Harvey?
You know, I don't think we've whittled that ARPA down. It's not, we don't have that much money left in that. So I don't think that's a big thing right now.
1.7-ish.
Yeah, but if we took 300,000, if we do that for the rail spur, we don't know. So I think we can wait on ARPA, is my opinion, and save that money for a while.
Hey, Commissioner Adams, aye?
2 weeks anyhow.
I like the idea of leaving the ARPA with the first Tuesday, like you suggested, only because it's been talked about possibly using ARPA for the rail spur. And I think we can finish that discussion about $1.7 million. I don't think it's gonna take a lot to finish that discussion.
Okay, let's,
Worst case scenario, we don't, and we push it forward. I don't think it's gonna add that much time to that meeting. I mean, our last ARPA meeting only took like an hour.
yeah, let's add that too. That we just have discussion. We don't have to spend it, but we can have some ideas from each commissioner of how, if you want to just hold it off to the last minute and do something, the rail spur, divvy it up amongst the districts. But let's put that on there too.
Okay, so
First
for,
Tuesday.
so for the first Tuesday, I have,
Second Tuesday, first week workshop. You mean the first Tuesday of the month, the first day of the month?
Yeah. That's a special meeting to
have to
discuss the
discuss
rail
March
spur.
March 1st.
Veritas.
so for the first Tuesday of March, we're looking at having a discussion here regarding the rail spur. Looking to have discussion regarding ARPA. And it looks like we have a discussion on biosolids. Or did you want that to
I
go
was
to
gonna
the
leave the
second?
biosolids on the second.
You
too.
got it. That's, okay, and the building department will also be on the second,
And the ARPA on the
okay?
right?
No, the ARPA's gonna be
Next
on
Tuesday.
on the first,
Okay.
which is the first Tuesday.
Okay?
Well, it has to almost be after the railroad spur discussion.
It does.
Yes,
Okay.
after the railroad spur discussion.
Okay. I think I got it.
So how many items are on the second Tuesday, which would be our regular workshop?
Right now, I have biosolids, and I have building department, and whatever else may come up with staff. Those are the two big ones that was asked by the commission.
Okay, and you'll check with Matt Reynolds to make sure.
And I'll check with
he's
Matt
okay
Reynolds.
with
That
moving
is
To
correct.
a later date. Okay,
Okay? If not, then we'll add that one, we'll keep that one on the second, just like we had scheduled it. I'll get with Mr. Reynolds.
If we need to, because of time or whatever, we can also put off the building department, but I would really like to, it takes 5 minutes to do an update on where we are on the software stuff, and if there's any suggestions on what we might do to help eliminate some of the backlog that we have. So, I mean, that shouldn't be a long conversation, I wouldn't think. We don't have to make any decisions that day. If we could just figure out that we're moving in that direction, it shouldn't take long.
It shouldn't, and I agree. I think the second Tuesday would be fine for that. I don't see a reason to pull that one off the second Tuesday. So, you know, we got it scheduled now for the second Tuesday, so Ms. Young and I will reach out to the players that we need to deal with for the railroad spur. And if we can get a group of individuals to come and meet with us on that Tuesday, that first Tuesday of March, then we'll go ahead and schedule that. Now, there is an issue. What issue did we? Okay, I'm good. Just want to make sure I wasn't rescheduling another meeting. So I think we're good, Mr. Chairman.
now there will be no third Tuesday
That is
workshop.
correct.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Rawls, you had a comment?
It's canceled.
We keep talking Tuesdays. We have Monday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays in the week as well. I'm just saying that I don't know why we try to restrict ourselves to only first and third Tuesdays. We have other opportunities available. So I mean, there's been times when we've had meetings on Thursdays and Fridays.
Exactly. It makes it
So-
harder on some of the commissioners to get up here.
Well, I understand.
Tuesday, I know I don't have an employee issue, so
I got you.
it might be a little selfish on me, but
And we don't, you know, these are workshops. We don't need all the staff here necessarily. We could still deliberate and discuss these. I think if we spent more time together, we'd get a lot more done rather than limiting ourselves the amount of time that we do by what we're doing, so.
okay. All right, so we got that straight.
So the 15th canceled.
Yes. Okay. Any more port business? Okay, we'll adjourn the port or reconvene the regular transportation workshop. And Mike, if you'll come up to the podium again, we'll go down to item A, Public Works right-of-way opening road discussion.
Good afternoon, folks. This first item is actually a good thing for the county. It means that people are coming to the county and building on lots that they own. So we work with the planning folks, and what we want to try to do is come up with a process to open roads up in the county. And so that's what this is. It's just an informational session for you guys. Hey, you know, we've worked it out that similar to the way we would vacate a road, we would have them open a road for us. So that whoever owned the road or whoever owned the parcel needed to open it up so they could get a building permit. We would ask for a survey. We would give them a right-of-way use permit so that they could clear the road to our standards. And then once it's done, they would let us know. We would go inspect the road, make sure it was to our standards, and then we would issue a letter to the planning department, and then we would be good to go. So it's just an informational session for you guys to let you know that we're working through this process. And it's a good thing for the county because people are building here now. So.
Okay, deal next.
I'm good.
Okay.
Waving support.
Mike, and I did, when I asked you, I guess it was Monday, that when all that is taken care of, that the county would accept this as a Class 2 road
Correct. Because 90% of them are Class 2 roads anyway.
already. They just have not been opened.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right, any
You want waving?
wave and support? Okay.
We're good.
Did we just waive in support that said that after they open it up, we're gonna make it a Class 2 road?
Well, that's what
Most
they
of them
said.
are already Class
Right.
2s.
He said they're already Class 2, that should not have been
Ones that are
opened up.
Class 2s, we're gonna automatically take them if they
No, we
open them
didn't
up?
say that.
That's why I'm asking, that's what I understood him to say.
No, only
If
the
they're
ones that
already
we
a class two, we'll keep them a class
Correct.
two, but if they're beyond class two to the other classes,
Well,
then, and somebody opens it up, that doesn't necessarily automatically bring them into class two.
When I say that, class 4 is something just no one has ever done research. It's either a private road or it's a class 2 road. It's one of the two. It won't be a class 1 because that is not brought into the maintenance system. So there's roads out there that are class 4 where just no one's lived on them, no one's done anything with them. So we haven't done the research on, hey, is that a private road or part of some subdivision that we don't know about or whatever, or it's a class 2. It's one of the two.
If it turns out it's private, they can clear it without a right-of-way permit, correct?
Absolutely. And we do nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's always be class two roads. We would allow this to happen and take them in if they're class two. Everything else would be private and up to the property owners to maintain. Correct? Okay.
To what level do we make them do that? Do they have to open it up to county standards, clear all 60 feet wide, pull the ditches, do all that, or can they clear a road into their place that suits them?
It depends. I'd say it depends, but there are certain roads that we don't have 60-foot right-of-way. So if I don't have 60-foot right-of-way on the rest of the road, then I'm not going to make them do 60-foot right-of-way on their
I'm
portion
not
of it.
communicating well with you. Let's say that we had 30, 60, 50, whatever right-of-way we had. But one person wants to clear it because it's going into their property at the end of the road. And that all they want is a winding road around the pine trees that are this big around that they don't want to cut down and clear, so they want to go in there and take a mulching machine and cut them a road into their property, which suits them just fine as far as being able to get into their property. Would we allow that as a right-of-way permit, or would they have to go clear the whole right-of-way and turn it into a county, class 2 county road, in other words, for us to let them do it?
It would be a class 2 county road.
Okay, well, being devil's advocate for a moment, doesn't our rules say that if we own that as a class 2 road and it becomes impassable, it's up to us to make it passable? Isn't that the whole necessity of a class 2 road?
We do maintenance as necessary.
Requested, yeah.
Right,
When
so
requested, when available.
But
if we own a class 2 road and we haven't done anything with it in 40 years, and it grew up into a pine tree grove, theoretically, couldn't the people say, wait a minute, that's your class 2 road, make it passable for me to get into my place? What's the difference between that and if they had a sinkhole in the middle of a road, we'd go in there and fix the sinkhole if it become impassable? So tell me, I understand what we're not wanting to do is get hooked on the line for clearing these roads, but if we're gonna make them clear it to that point, I'm not so sure that they couldn't claim that it's ours and we need to clear the road into their property. It's a class 2 road. It's not passable. You understand what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. It's just, one, we don't have the money or the people to do that. They bought this property or they're buying this property knowing that this condition exists.
Well, sometimes they're up north and they bought a piece of property and it showed access to the county road right up to the front of their property, and then they drive up and, from wherever, and they find out that the county road's there on paper, but it's not there in reality, but it's a class 2 county road. By the same scenario that I gave a moment ago, they would, if they drove up here and the road was cleared, but there was a big giant sinkhole in the middle of it, they'd call us up and say, my road's not passable, and we'd go fill the road in, whether we had the money or not. If the class 2 road become impassable. So I don't really see the difference between that and this, other than we just don't want to start clearing roads.
That's a large part of it, because you just don't have the money.
I understand, so then why would we make them clear that road up to our standard if all they needed to do was just get into their property? That's what I don't understand. I'll open that can of worms. You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Adamsack?
I guess because we're gonna take it over as a class 2 road.
Already
It already is a class two.
No, but I mean,
already
we're
is a
gonna
class
actually
two.
we're gonna actually do them. It's- Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think, wouldn't we need our attorney to kind of answer that question?
I don't know that he could.
He left the conversation a long time
Policy
ago.
question.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, why don't we just look into, because this is a valid concern, I think it makes absolute sense, but, why couldn't we just give the person the road and then they don't have to get the permit? If it's on their property
Well, it may,
and just
may
walk away
serve
from
us
it.
more than just that one
Right.
property.
Right, right.
Yeah, there's plenty of other parcels down the road or whatever that, you know, you just can't vacate the road.
Because, I mean, I absolutely agree with what you're saying, because if you look at the GIS, there's all kinds of roads out there that don't exist. That you drive there, I mean, the one that we went to one of the first times you and I went out, the thing shows that it's a loop all the way around this lake, and there's trees for 100 yards, and then there's a part to the right that there's trees for another 100 yards that go nowhere. Yeah, I don't know what you might have just opened a can of worms there, Mr.
It
Turner.
just isn't as simple as what we're saying it is. It's
I
just
agree.
not.
I don't know the answer.
Mr. Rawls?
You gotta be very careful here, because we had a conversation this morning regarding St. John's Harbor. And I could just, if I was sitting out there right now and I was them, I'd be having the what about me conversation. So, you know, we're having a policy conversation. I think we need to get the policy written up, and the board needs to decide what our appetite is for this type of road, pig trail, whatever we're gonna call it. What's the one down in your district, Bill? Snake, yeah. That's running through my mind right now. Where are those folks in this conversation? I just think that we gotta be very, very, very deliberate here, and like Turner says, do as little as we can. Let them open the road up. This is their road, not ours. They need to get their property. But we gotta be very careful, because
Yeah,
you don't
they
have the
would be
budget, you don't have the
responsible for
staff,
opening
and
the
you
road.
darn sure don't wanna open this can of worms.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the county opening the road. We'd ask whoever bought the property to open the road to their property.
Right. But then it comes in, then it becomes our responsibility when they call, say, hey, I got this spot that was full of water and driving back and forth, it's washed out. I need some fill dirt, can you come fix my road? Because it's a class 2 road, we have to do that.
Once it's open, yes.
Yeah.
And then it is a class 2 road, then we
But
would
now
fix
you're
it.
splitting hairs, Mike. I mean, I understand your position, totally understand it, but now you're splitting hairs. The policy we have right now says that when the road becomes impassable, a class 2 road becomes impassable, that we'll go make it passable. I think that's what our policy says. And so, unless somebody shows me different. So, what's the difference in it grown up in pine trees or got a pothole in the middle of it? There's not much difference. So, I say we got to tread very carefully here. We're gonna say, if we're not careful here, we're gonna say that we're gonna go in and clear all these roads, which we don't have the money and the wherewithal to do it. Or we can allow the people to go in and clear with, you know, enough to get to their property to suit them. And, but I think it's unreasonable for us to ask them to open the road up to the total width of the road up to subdivision standards within Putnam County to get to their own property, when theoretically they could probably sue us in court and win. I don't know they could win, but they could sue us in court that we ought to go open the road up to start with, that the road's a class 2 road, and they relied on that to buy the property wherever they bought it from. So I think we got to be very careful here on what we do and where we go.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the whole goal here, though, let's not lose sight of it, was to allow people the access to get a building permit. And that's what we were facing the other day. So I think if we can keep that in mind, I think we can come to some type of permit, if you will. Maybe they do open the whole road. Maybe they do take down the pine trees. Maybe it's on a case-by-case basis where our public works director goes out and says, yay or nay, this part's open, that part isn't. I mean, I think the whole goal, though, was to open up the building permits, because right now they're not opened up. And I think that's what we got to look at. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, aye?
I guess the difference between a pothole and trees growing is time. And I think time may have something to do with if a piece of property, if you had a road that hasn't had a call for maintenance in 30 years, maybe that kind of dictates something different, right? Because the call to maintenance is normal maintenance. It's pothole, washout, it's, you know, something like that. Normal maintenance isn't removing a 50-foot pine tree out of the middle of the road. That's
But it could be if that pine tree fell over. We'd go remove it. It would become impassable and we would go move it.
yeah, if it fell over, but it's not falling over.
I'm
I get what you're
You're
saying.
splitting hairs, pal.
I think that's a legitimate hair splitting.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, we had the situation, this is probably for you, but you've seen the road, Snake Hill was classified as a Class 2 road. We brought it to the transportation to see what the county was gonna do, and we said we weren't gonna do that. So we turned it down.
You weren't going to open it up, correct? Is that,
We weren't gonna do any work to it.
right.
We just couldn't justify the money because nobody was living on it. Somebody wanted to build on it, so I don't want to get in that situation again either. Commissioner Rawls?
Harvey's right. We're, at the last meeting, there's no reason why we cannot let somebody get their permit in, let it get reviewed with a conditional requirement that prior to CO, the road is opened. And then I think it's up to us to have the conversation about what the definition of opened is and get that resolved. And this goes away. I don't know that, we obviously can't give the road back, but we've got to do something because we're financially challenged. And this is just going to be a really big can of worms if we're not careful. A lot of people are looking at this place. I've had 3 people in the past 3 days talking to me about buying housing, moving in from out of county to buy property and build houses here. And it doesn't seem like this is going to end. We are the the new best value on the block.
And that's one of the reasons I discussed it here, because our current policy is we say give them a right-of-way use permit, and they clear the road.
I don't have an,
I don't think that gets them where they need to be though legally. I don't know if they can do that, but I think it's just, we just need to finish having the conversation and establish a policy that will allow people to get their, call it a driveway, whatever you want to call it, road opened up. I hate to even use the term, and get their building permit and get their certificate of occupancy so they can use their property.
and I think you can. I believe you can. I believe you can actually go in there and instead of opening it up to a 60-foot design standard for array, if that's the right of way with a pulled ditch on both sides, if it suits them to go in there and make a lane like they would if they own the property and that they're just going back to their house, they would just open a lane. If they could do that, then I'd be okay too. I just don't think they have to go in there and completely clear a 60-foot right of way and pull ditches and build a road when it's ours to start with.
Okay.
Yeah,
Clear as mud?
no, this is again, this is a good discussion, so.
So this is just a discussion, you'll go back and bring us something later?
Yeah,
I think what we all want to avoid is having to take in a bunch of roads and maintain them. That's the thing, especially, I kind of understand the 2s, but that would still could put a drain on us, but definitely can't do ones that are Class 3s and 4s.
you gotta think, this is a road that no one's touched in 30 years because no one's lived on it, so it's Class 2, we've never been called to do work on it, right?
But should we not be looking at those roads and mitigating that now ahead?
You think?
We should do a lot, we don't have the money.
No, I get it.
No. I'm not saying do the work.
Right.
I'm saying look at those, get ahead of this conversation, and vacate the road.
But where would you start? There's hundreds of them.
Start with
Right.
hundreds.
Start with this one, the one that gets requested.
It'd take somebody all day long for 2 months just looking at it, one person, maybe 2, to figure out where they all are to go look at them.
And if we could, Rich, can we establish a policy that if a road has been untouched for pick a number of years, and somebody brings dirt that we're not aware of, or we don't have the means to go out and become aware, is there a way to work around where we could vacate the road? If somebody brings in and says, I want my road cleared, I just bought this piece of property, I'm gonna build my mansion.
Yes, you can create that policy. Just keep in mind that as soon as you do, there's going to be somebody that comes to you with an exception to that policy.
But right now, we don't have a policy, and we have somebody that came to us with an exception to what we don't have a policy to.
We kinda do have a policy, it just might not be what we want for a policy, but we got a policy, and the policy is if it's a class 2 road and it's unpassable, we make it passable.
But he
We
doesn't
just
have,
don't like that policy.
he doesn't have the resources. He doesn't have the resources.
Doesn't matter, that's what our current policy states.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Can we
That's
change it?
okay,
Yeah.
but that's what it states.
That's what I'm saying. So what, how do we do that?
Well, how you,
This is a 2-day workshop discussing
I think it is. Let's table this till next meeting. Bring us back
Can
some
we
more.
get-
First and third Tuesday in June.
Bring him back some more options.
Apologize,
Okay,
can I just say one more thing? Can we get a copy of that ordinance or policy? Just because I'm going off of what he's saying and I trust him. And then maybe we can come up with some ideas individually on how to maybe rewrite that and then get together at a later date.
Yeah, I presented it to the board a while ago. I'm not sure if you were here. I mean, it might have been,
Mr.
I'm
Chaucer,
not sure, I mean.
just
and-
send that again to everybody, make sure they all had the same thing. Thank you.
And I just, because this came up, when we search our website for ordinances, it's not keyword search friendly. So it is something we may want to look into getting that
Muni
updated.
code.
it's not an ordinance.
just a policy.
This is internal policy.
Yeah, this is
No,
not an
I'm
ordinance.
just making note of when I go to an ordinance on the page, it's not easy to find one. So if someone could teach me an easier way, that'd be great.
Download it, put it in a converter,
I
and,
would need to be able to find it first.
oh, Muni code.
okay, moving right along.
I only noticed this yesterday while I was looking up something.
Okay, item B, Public Works generator installation funding.
This is part of the FDEM permit or project that we got funded. This is just a funding agreement, a workshop that you guys let you know. This is to put a backup generator down at the Paradise Point lift station. Currently, if the power goes out, a hurricane happens, that lift station will not operate. So it does feed a lot of the homes down there in Paradise Point. So there is a match, 25% match to this grant, about 60 grand.
Where's it come from?
Would it come from the general fund reserves?
Okay, any motion on that or just? Mr. Turner?
Paradise Point. Isn't that lift, this didn't get replaced when we run all that sewer lines and all that stuff down there not too long ago?
Well, there's a lift station down there. There's a backup generator for it.
This is just a backup generator for a lift station, just a lift station. And it's it's 100 and, how much is it? $239,000 for a damn generator? How big a generator we got to have to run one lift station?
I don't know the specs on the lift station. You know, whether it's three-phase, I'm assuming it's a
That
three-phase lift
thing
station.
must be
but
three-phase and have more power than the Grand Junction Railroad.
I was looking at 150 kW generators online before I came over here. You know, they range from 40 grand
Right.
to 113,000 for a Cummins. And then you got to get automatic transfer switch.
Have
and some other
natural
stuff.
gas in the area that we could just
Yes.
put a natural gas generator in that area?
I don't know if there's natural gas there or
I
not.
think they do, Crescent City Natural Gas.
It runs right down 17, goes all the way up to Plaquemine.
It
It's
goes
all
to
canals.
Does it go all the way down? I don't think it goes down Horse Landing Road.
Well, if it doesn't, I'd be surprised. It goes all the way down East End, I'm on it.
I don't know, I'd have to look, but
It's
this
on
would have a
Allendale.
belly tank on it or something, you know, you'd have a diesel generator on it. But
The
you
problem,
Well, my point is, that just seems a little high to me, 239,896, and I know that we're paying 60, but if we could set the whole thing up for what we're paying for it, I mean, I've got a whole house generator, and maybe it doesn't have enough power to run what you're running, but it runs everything in my house and my water pump and everything else. I got 12 grand in it, and it's a water-cooled natural gas generator. How do you get to 239?
This is what was approved years ago when they submitted for this FDEM grant.
Okay. So we'd have to put 60 grand in it basically of our own money.
Correct.
Mr. Rawls?
It, 150 KVA at 480 volt is 300 amps.
Yeah, there's about 300 amp. I don't think
don't-
they have that at the
You
lift
don't
station.
need anywhere
but,
near that. You're probably looking at closer to 50 amp. You only run one pump at a time. Are they 5 horse?
I hadn't looked at the
Yeah,
lift station
so-
down there.
Anyways, Commissioner Turner's right, but there is natural gas in the area. I know it goes down Islander Drive because we connected a house down there, which is a little bit further north than we're talking about. But, you know, when you take a look at the maintenance aspect of a diesel generator versus natural gas, you're gonna have to change your fuel out at least twice a year, every 6 months is what they recommend. If not, when that thing doesn't run, it's on us and we own it. So I would, if we're gonna go down the road, I would do a needs assessment. There's also another option, which is where you get into a contract with Caterpillar, one of those companies. So when there's a storm coming, you have this, they own the generators, they maintain them, they bring you one and connect it up. But I'm meeting with Generac tomorrow. If you would like to come to the meeting, we're looking at potentially two megawatt generators. They're much larger than you need, but the gentleman, the representative from Generac will be in town. If you're interested, I'll give you an invite. You can come talk to them and see if we could maybe help save you some money.
Back during the last storm we had, there weren't any generators. I don't care what kind of contract you had with CAT or Ring Power or whoever, there were no generators. So
Yeah.
I don't know that.
You just have to negotiate them up front. Sunbelt and all those guys have. But like I said, invitation's open if you want to participate in that meeting with the guy from Generac, and it's their big generator.
Well, I have a Generac for a house in Ohio.
No, these are big,
Well,
liquid
you're
cooled.
right, but
Yeah,
they're
they're big,
giant.
big. So
We had them at the military base. Every building
Yep.
had a backup generator.
I have a 90
Saying
kW
this needs
sitting on
more
a trailer
research then, is that what we're saying?
that we bought for $36,000. That's a trailer mounted 90 kW. So it's, I don't know.
Julianne, do you have a comment?
Just for sake of conversation for what we're talking about, the project award is based on page 34. There's a scope, which includes construction scope of work to purchase and install the new diesel generator powered backup 150 kilowatt generator to the critical facility, the adequate size to determine by the vendor or the electrical engineer during the bid process
Wow.
to adequately, okay. The project shall include necessary concrete slab, electrical connections, and fuel tank. Additionally, the project shall include sealing of 10 existing manholes with stainless steel rain stop, and the lining of approximately 2,000 linear feet of sewer line. The project shall prevent loss and function to the critical facility. So the project includes much more than just a generator for the sake of conversation of what I was hearing from you guys.
I understand that, I really do, but I guess what I would like to see happen, is us go ahead and approve this today, because that's what you're needing to move forward with.
And we bring it to a consent agenda.
Yeah, and before we actually install this, why don't we get somebody to tell us how much power that we actually need instead of what this was designed at?
Well, that's part of the process.
I understand, but so we could approve this up to a maximum of 60, but it's gonna be designed for the power that we need and not the power that we've got here, because this is ridiculous. You could light up East End Road with that generator. So, you know, I'm just saying that we need to have it resized. I just can't in my wildest dreams think that we need that kind of 150 kW generator. I mean, a whole house generator, absolute whole house is 24 kW nowadays. So, anyhow, so you need to move forward to get this grant moving,
Correct.
but we're gonna actually make sure that by the time we get around to spending the money, we're doing the right thing and not just overkilling it like we could.
Correct. Yeah, if we don't need a 150 kW generator, there's
We don't
no
need
need,
that.
no need in it.
How was that recommended? Was that recommended in the scope of work?
Yeah, in the scope of work, there'll be, there will be electrical engineer there that'll do those calculations for us, what we need.
Okay, so you want to move this forward, the understanding no more than this, but you'll bring it back to us with what they actually find out.
Oh, yeah, they'll be, before it goes to, because it'll have to go out for bid, have to do all that stuff, so you guys will
I move, we move it forward.
Okay,
be well aware.
okay, we've got a proper motion, a proper second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, it moves
Is
forward.
that unanimous?
Write that down. FP&L utility easement request for Timberwood Terrace.
If we received a request from FPL, for us to give them a utility easement through the right-of-way, the road that we have. Typically, we just do an easement, but they said they need the right-of-way because of the power that they have to put overhead or underground. So this is standard stuff for us, but this is just, if you guys can see the map, it's running right down the center of the street. They can't do it any other place because of,
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, proper motion, a proper second to allow the easement. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Got 3 minutes left.
Whatever, 3 minutes.
I went there, didn't I?
Bonus points for that.
What
Thank
am-
you, everybody. Drop the mic, walk away.
What am I missing?
3:47.
Kurt gets grumpy at 3:47.
Oh, is that the, is
That's
that
just
exact?
not accurate.
that's-
I'm grumpy at 2.
That's the time? I didn't know that was the time.
Mike, can I take the next one?
sure, go ahead.
Okay, item D. Mr. Cuneo, when he was here, got most of the,
Commissioner Harvey, can you take item D?
thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, here we go. It is 3:45. All right, Mr. Cuneo, when he was here, got most of the easements, and we bought some property down on Holloway. This is just a,
Move approval.
thank you, I second it.
Good job presenting that, Commissioner.
Okay,
You
all
want
in-
to finish?
Yes, sir.
Or you want to go ahead
We
and
already
finish?
did a second, so I'm good.
Okay. Got a
But
proper-
tell him when you're done.
Proper motion, a proper second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Good deal.
While you're up there, I did not bring my phone with me or my iPad, so I don't have the email from Tracy Woods. Do you have it on your phone?
I have it, but she emailed me back, and Tracy Woods, I don't know if you want to talk about it now?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and talk about it now, then we'll go in the commissioner comments and county attorney. But we received with the Saratoga Harbor Dams, we went ahead and decided that we were not going to accept ownership, and the Saratoga Harbor Property Association, they were going to accept it. So we turned that, we gave up on that one. But we got an email from Tracy Woods with another offer, so Mike's going to explain that. That may be beneficial for Saratoga Harbor people and the county.
Correct. Part of what we asked for before was an emergency action plan and an inundation study and some other stuff. And so that the emergency action plan requires a dam owner.
Right.
Right? But however, the inundation study does not. And so what she had came back to us with was, hey, she's going to submit a grant for next year, and she's pretty confident she'll be successful in getting it. At no cost to us or the Saratoga Harbor folks. They can do an inundation study on what would happen if those two causeways fail. And then if there's any money left over when they get that grant, they will also look at doing a conditions assessment of those causeways or dams at no cost to us, and no requirement if they find something to fix it. But it's a no-brainer on my end. Let's say, hey, let's press forward with getting this inundation study. But we want to have a conversation with the
Yeah,
Saratoga
wanted-
Harbor folks as well, but
And I spoke to Dan Carter, the board that they actually had as far as, that dealt with us on the dams and their condition. They disbanded that, so I'm working with Dan Carter, who's the property owner president. So he said today he didn't have a problem with it all, because it sounded like it was gonna be funded through FEMA.
Correct,
So, and it would just give them some information, us some information we don't have.
correct.
So, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As long as Saratoga Harbor doesn't think that we're doing this because we have ownership or intend to have ownership, I don't have a problem with it. And, I mean, I do feel for those people, don't get me wrong, I do, but, you know, as long as there's no expectation of us moving forward, even with, because we all know what will happen if the thing gets washed out, they're going different directions at that point. But,
Give them a barge.
do what?
Give them a barge.
Yeah, I just don't, yeah, I don't want them at BX thinking that they're gonna come back and say, see, I told you so. This is part of your deal. I don't want that, so, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
How does this relate to the EAP?
The EAP is slightly different.
You read one for everybody?
The EAP is how they would get stuff, how they would
No, I know, but
extract
how
this.
does this relate to the EAP? Because the EAP was what brought this whole thing up.
Right. Other than the fact that to do a true EAP through their process, their grant process, somebody has to be the owner of the dam.
But will there be an action plan generated after all this work is, no.
No,
So
no. This
all
is,
we're gonna have is data.
we're gonna have data,
And
yes.
then what?
Well, then it's up to,
We give them the bad news and say, according to this, your dam's gonna fail in the next 10 years. What are you gonna do about it, or what?
could be.
Very well could be.
Okay.
But, you know, their inundation study, you know, what would be affected should the dams fail? You know, what's going to happen? Is it going to be only their docks that go out? Is it going to be a house or whatever? So that inundation study I think is important information to have. And then if they have money left over, then they would also look at those causeways that are down there and say, hey, they do a condition assessment on them and say, you know, this is potentially wrong or this.
Okay.
But it's, again, there's no cost to us. We don't have to, nobody has to claim ownership of it. So it's just.
How does
it's a
homeowners
good thing.
insurance affect this?
How their homeowners? I have no idea.
It just seems like we're getting involved in a lot of stuff that we shouldn't.
That's what I'm.
But what now?
It won't hurt anything, huh?
But I didn't hear what you said.
It just seems like we're getting involved in a lot of things we shouldn't, but I understand it's gonna help them. All we're, give them the data, let them do what they have to do. is the
Right.
point.
I think that's all that this will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do they need us to participate? Why can't the Saratoga Harbor people just ask the lady to do this on their own?
Well, actually, they could. I reached back out to the state, say, what can we do to assist these folks? And she just emailed me back, and that was what she emailed me back is, hey, we can still do an inundation study.
So why don't we turn that over to Saratoga Harbor to ask for inundation
See if you
study?
can do that, Mike.
Sure.
See if you can turn it over to them.
Sure.
Okay? And if they can't, bring it back and we'll make it. Is there a time frame to get back with her with one way or the other?
Yeah, it'll be first of next week. But if we talk with Dan, we can.
See
Have
if you
him.
can turn it over to them.
Yeah, let's see if we
can't,
can
then
turn it
let's
over.
do it for them.
Your agreement with that? We'll do it for them? No strings attached?
No strings attached.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. We'll go with other commissioner comments. Commissioner Adamczak?
So, it's kind of funny, I keep hearing people and talking and around the community and how much potential growth there is, and talking to realtors, how property is selling as fast as it comes up. Like I've talked about in the past, I used to have, I have a search that updates me every day in email. It used to have 20, 30 listings in it. I'm lucky if there's one a day. Today I got 3, that's like a record. But most days there's very little inventory. I think we're getting close to the time where we may want to discuss our moratorium on impact fees. I know that's not a popular subject. But the purpose to me, and I wasn't here when it was decided to put a moratorium on it, was because everything was stagnant. So it was by not having them, the few people that came here came here, oh, I saved 15 grand compared to St. John's on top of the fact that the lot was only $1,200, whatever it was. I think we really need to start considering that as a funding resource for things that are the impacts of new development, of all that type of thing. I think it's a discussion we need to have. Whether we act on it or not is up to this board as a whole. But even if we start small, I think it makes some sense, because a lot is coming here that we're not prepared for. It's seen the discussion we're gonna have about the building department and everything else. That's all a part of this, right? That the discussion we have that we can't open up class 2 roads. Well, if there was an impact fee there and then we had some ability to expand roads, open roads, do things as a result of that, you know, the district also they have their own impact fee they can impose if they chose to. So I don't know what the will of the board is, but literally I was checking out from lunch. I wanted to get 2 5s for a 10 at Musselwhite's. There was a guy who obviously wasn't from Putnam County, all excited talking to the girl, and he basically was like, this is the fastest growing place in Florida, and I'm here because I'm investing. They were having a conversation, but he got all excited, and there's people looking for land here and for properties here from all over the place. If it's a legitimately halfway decent piece of property in a good location, it doesn't last a day. I just think it's a topic we really need to, we're gonna be kicking ourselves in the butt. I said butt, not the A word, because I can't boast. 5 years from now, if we have all this development and we're still trying to catch up on roads and all the other stuff that results from not having the impact fee, and that dries up, as unfortunate as to word it that way, that's the facts of where we are right now, in my opinion.
Commissioner Rawls, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of bringing back impact fees until we square up the rest of the funding of the county. You know, right now the Dow is down 1,190 points in the past 3 days. We're in a real tenuous way economically. And I remember what it did to the citizens that live here right now, the people that did want to buy houses that lived here. We having to pay $12,000 to build a house in the city and $8,000 to build a house in the county. That puts that much more burden on the back of the folks that want to move here or build here. We've not looked at meaningfully any alternative funding. I think there's better ways to fund the county where we don't have to depend. And then you have to spend the money significantly in the area of impact. So if you don't generate a lot of money in one area, you're not going to do any good anyways. I got the same email, I believe, that all the other commissioners got. I responded to the person that sent it, and I told them my thoughts on it. But I think right now impact fees are what's helping drive the development that we're getting. I don't think that housing is going to be what's going to bail us out, but we need housing severely right now. We need to attract some younger folks to move here, help take care of our aging population. They've got to have a place to land. Property is not affordable, in my opinion, but I would be opposed to lifting the moratorium on impact fees right now.
On this one, I respectfully disagree with you, Commissioner Rawls. The whole reason why is because what's setting us apart from the other counties isn't the impact fees, it's the cost of the land, and that is going up considerably. But when your cost of land is going up 300%, but the cost was only 1/1000th or 1/100th of what it was in the other location, the same quarter acre lot in St. Johns County is $100 grand, right? And then they're paying whatever the impact fee, I think it's around 18 to 20 some $1,000.
No, that's at the bare minimum.
Right, that's what I'm saying, at the bare minimum. So their input is 118,000 for something that they can come in here and do for 3,500. Even a really good lot, like an acre, you're talking 16 grand total output right now.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Harvey, then we'll move on to Commissioner Turner's comments.
Well, I think I'm not in agreement with impact fees whatsoever. I think our new developments will have to have all the infrastructure put in. But I don't agree with impact fees. I don't think that's the way we're going to grow our county in the right way. And unless you can prove to me that really how the impact is, I remember when the little mini Walmart in Interlaken was coming, had we had impact fees, it would have been $60,000 to them. and we didn't hire another police officer, we didn't put another fire department, we didn't put any, they bought their water, so nothing was really impacted there at that point. So I'm just not in favor of that unless you can prove that it really impacts an area, and then you have to really sell me on that one.
So, so again, if, if we don't see the impact is obvious by the fact that we can't provide the services already today for what the community demands, whether it's fire service, EMS, our sheriff's department can't compete, our road work service, we can't give enough raises to be able to have people here. We're short 20-some employees. Our building department doesn't have enough people that have the qualifications we need. We are short in every segment of this county. That is because we've been short on being able to fund things. That is the impact. We're seeing
Now,
the
that's your
impact.
opinion, but other counties
Okay,
have
I don't
a
want to get
shortage
into a
too.
debate. All right, I'm gonna close this
I
one.
think the debate's way past.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm done with it. All right, we're moving on. Commissioner Turner, your comments? Closing comments?
I'm not for impact, I'm not for more, impact fees either. I'll leave it at that to keep from getting into a debate. And I have no further comments this afternoon, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls, closing comments?
I want to go there so bad. No, I'll leave it alone, but I do agree that we, again, we authorized the expenditure of $60,000 to do a study on, we already had a study in 2018 on MSBU for county, or for a county fire, and we're supposed to take a look at the potential of doing a special assessment for EMS, and until we get all of our citizens paying for the basic necessities, I don't think we're going to be able to function very well, and that would help offset some of the costs that we need to be able to fully fund our other departments, but that's obviously a conversation not for this day.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, closing comments?
I have no further. Thank you, sir.
Okay, county attorney? County administrator?
I have nothing, sir.
Okay, I have none. Any further business to come before this board? We stand adjourned.